Hi, welcome back to another episode of 10%. Thank you to the subscribers, and I hope that you found the content relevant, useful, and you had um, reflections, you've been triggered in positive ways more than negative, and yeah, that you've started conversations amongst your community or with yourself regarding the topics that I've already addressed. So today I am addressing buying a car. So I'm talking money, and I just want to talk about lessons I learned in buying my first car and also mistakes that I made in buying my first car. So yeah, let's get to it. I was privileged enough to have my first car be given to me as a gift by my mom. She bought it for me in 2016 when I got my first job, and I was driving all the way to Durban, and it was my first time driving such a long distance, and I had my cousin to help me out, and he was also going the same destination, so we just made it like a family thing, and my sister at the back, and me causing so much traffic because it was my first time driving and I was nervous. But anyway, to cut the long story short, my mom bought me a Ford Figo, white 2012 model manual, and I was very, very, very excited. And I named her Jeremiah Nseka. Jeremiah because of the verse 29, Jeremiah 29 verses 11, where it says, I know all the plans that I have for you. And Nseka because of my favorite male artist, Nseka. Or if you know him, is from The Soil. Basically, that's the music part of the car, that the music that I'd always play would be always good music. Like the music that comes out when Nseka sings. I just love it. I love his voice. So yeah, I went to Durban, got the car. I didn't have any car installment, and also being in Durban, I also didn't have any insurance because Durban is a small town where I was living, Pine Town to be exact. I mean, drivers there's no traffic in Durban, though people don't indicate when they're changing lanes, but I don't know if that has changed. But nonetheless, so 2 years down the line, because of all the traveling and the company I was working for at the time took me literally across the country to say, so I traveled a lot and also visiting family. So I have a lot of reasons why I ended up buying my own car, but needless to say, the reason why I really, really wanted a new car was to save on fuel. And the current car that I had at the time, the Figo, was just chowing the fuel, especially because I was always out and about because of work, and traveling. And yeah, you get travel claims, but at the end of the day, it just becomes too much. And the budget with petrol was just fluctuating a lot. And Durban side, I loved living in Durban because literally where I lived, everything was like in a 1 kilometer radius. From the garage to the gym to the mall, I was literally like central. When I moved back in Gauteng, late 2016, I had to travel 5 kilometers to go to the gym, 5 kilometers to go to the nearest mall. So it was just adjusting also with the distance and everything. In Durban, I could walk to my nearest takeaway spot. I think at the time it was McDonald's. And so when I came back to Gauteng, that wasn't the case. You drive to everywhere you want to go. But anyway, cut the long story short, the do's and the don'ts of buying your car. So for me, buying the car that I bought meant selling the one that I had in order for me to afford it. I have a rule. I will have an affordability rule where if I can't put down a deposit of 15 to 20%, I just don't buy it, or maybe just that motivates me to save up more, at least until I can have at least 15 to 20% purchase. Yeah, so the do's, let's start with the do's. I'll probably mix it in between. So yeah, I've got my script, but you know, my mind is flowing as well. So do spend your time viewing and googling and shopping. Like when it comes to car buying, do extensive window shopping. Like, don't limit yourself. I mean, there's some people who even buy cars from different provinces and they go fetch them, or they transport them through trains. I know a friend who did that, you know, simply because it was cheaper in that province than in Gauteng, you know. So you have that option, you can do that. So it even helps even more when you actually know which car you want, you know. And obviously you need to start with a budget as well. So do window shop as much as you can. I think I window shopped for like 2 months to 3 months, if I'm not mistaken. And it was not consecutive months, but it was like, you know, 1 month I'd be like, okay, if I had to buy a car right now, what would I like, you know? And luckily for me, the car that I'm driving right now, I had seen it being driven by someone else. I basically test drove it, you know, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. Number two that you need to do is to, as practice, you know, depending on your budget, you know, if you're not a baller or anything, like I wasn't a baller at the time, my biggest trick has always been just saving. And I'm privileged enough not to have financial responsibilities that are beyond my means. So I've been basically been able to save most of my money ever since I started working. So save up for it, like, well, depends. The best financial advice that I received when it came to like buying big assets and stuff like that. So for like the first 3 months or the first 6 months, you basically prepare for this new asset that you want to buy, whether it be a car, whether it be a house, whether you want to make a big purchase on anything that is practically more than your salary a month, you know. So you basically plan it out. Like, so I planned it out. So your car installment, your insurance, your petrol, your service, your maintenance. And because I had already had a car at the time, I didn't want the jump to be so great, you know. So I'm compensated for like a 15% increase. And I mean in terms of maintenance, petrol. So I wasn't gonna go for a car. I mean, at that, for example, my tires, the Figo tires, I think actually the cheapest that I saw was almost for my 600, depending on the brand and where you go to shop for your tires as well. So I don't want the gap to be like, now I need to start paying 2,000 Rand per tire. No. Right now, I recently just bought tires. Yes. So yeah, dividing it, now the car that I drive, a tire costs, the most expensive one that I've seen is like 1,002, but I spent recently 850, 900, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, recently, having bought new tires. So you see the jump is not great. I mean, from 600 Rand roughly on average for a Figo tire to 900 Rand and 50 on average for the car that I have now. It's not a big jump, you know. Well, for me, it's not a big jump. And so those are the things that I looked at, petrol wise as well. How the tank, my current tank versus the new tank, you know, things like that. Those are the things that I also looked at. So I don't want a big jump as well. And I also wanted a car that was going to last me and be relevant at least for the next 5 to 10 years. Because yes, I am not, unless anything happens drastically, not thinking of buying any new car. Okay. Another thing that you need to do, definitely take someone with you. Especially if you are a female. I honestly don't feel safe when it comes to used car garages. I always feel like trying to take advantage of me because I don't know more about cars, and when I get there I always surprise them because I actually do know quite a lot about cars. I mean, I grew up loving the heck out of cars. I still do. And Mercedes for me has always been the real drip. So I had my cousin involved, asked him to check out a few places, especially in areas where I thought the prices was too good to be true. It's always worthwhile to go there physically and actually see the cars. Also, you're going back to Googling. There are so many websites on buying cars, and the nice thing about it is that, you know, these car rental companies, your First Rentals, your Avis, they have the system where they sell cars every end of the year, or every end of the second year of the cars that they were using. Like in 2017 they'll sell it, in 2018, things like that. So there's quite a lot of options that are available when it comes to purchasing a car. If you're going to go the auction route, know that there's a minimum amount that you need to pay, which is usually 5,000 rand the last time that I checked. And when I was actually also buying a car, I had to pay 5,000 rand as well, and I wasn't willing to do that. For me, I preferred to take that 5,000 rand and keep it for the purchase. So the issue I have with auction is that you have no control. You buy, they only tell you the good stuff, they won't tell you the bad stuff, you know. And it's a matter of ketile, you know, you've chosen, and if for whatever reason the car is not meeting your standards, you have to fix it and things like that. And I wasn't willing to take the risk, actually. And there are platforms like We Buy Cars and Wheelie that also sell other people's cars. They sell secondhand cars, and yeah, they've got a few good offers. So compare is definitely something that you need to do, and test drive as well. Definitely test drive. And also, when you've decided which car you want, go through, like, literally do a 360. I mean, there are funny things that I found out about my car after purchasing it. I found out that the battery was smaller than what it was supposed to be installed in the car, because the car was used as a demo. So I don't know if the garage decided to downgrade on certain things because it wasn't being used as much, you know. Find out things about when your service is due. Check your tires. Ask the questions: how new are these tires? When last were they changed? Ask about, check the battery, check the oil, because the standard is to take the car to Dekra, and Dekra just stamps your car whether it's road safe or not road safe, you know. So things like that are not really sufficient enough for the nitty-gritty. So check that. Check your battery size, check that the oils are correct, check the engine, check the tires, the thread tires, you know. Ask how new or how old they are. I remember when my mom bought me the Figo, they had just recently changed all the tires, you know. And I think the only reason why I had to even change a tire for the Figo was because I got a puncture. So things like that. And also ask the driver, well, if you're a hands-on person like me, ask them, I'm saying the driver, ask the sales person to show you how you change your tires, and if the tire at the back is actually a spare tire or it's just a temporary tire. Because I thought I had a spare tire, only to find out that I have a temporary tire, which means that basically I can only use it in the event of a puncture. I take out the tire that has been punctured, and I can only use that literally for like a maximum of 3 days, and I need to be driving at 80 kilometers an hour. So it's not really a long-term plan. Basically, I would need to get a whole entire rim if I want. There's a term that they used when I went to go buy the tires, but I've quite forgotten it. Just made it my business to know these things, you know, because it's always better to be left empowered than stranded in some situations. So also check that you've got the jack, you know, the one that lifts your car when you want to change a tire. Another thing that you need to do when buying a car, you need to investigate what is the current interest rate on on cars basically. So the mistake that I made was that I got a fixed interest rate, and at that time it was fixed at 14%, and I'm sure the flexi rate was lower than that. So especially because I was planning on paying it off very quickly, I should have gotten a flexi rate and I would have benefited from the interest cut rates that have recently been announced by the government. So currently I am paying fixed rate, one of my mistakes, but we live and we learn. Another thing that I would not advise you to do is to get a balloon payment. A balloon payment basically on a car, what it means is that if your car is 500,000 Rand, very expensive, but yeah, if you choose a car that has a purchase price of 500,000 Rand, your balloon payment will probably be 120,000 Rand. So you take that out, it's what? Yeah, 380,000. That's literally how I solve my math sums. I break it down like that. The 380,000 is how much they will charge you. So if you, for instance, choose a 5-year term or a 6-year term, the balloon payment is then expected in the last year of your term, and it's expected in the full amount. It's not expected in installments, it's expected as a full amount. So you need to go there with 120,000. So if you're financially smart about it, you can maybe save up throughout the 4 years to cough up the 120,000, or play the lotto and get 120,000, or whatever magic or rabbit you can pull out of the hat. But I never advise it because you never know what can happen in 5 years. I mean, it's literally gambling with your monetary situation. So if you don't have the money, don't do it. Rather reduce your expectations and choose something that you can afford as well. My rule of thumb as well, if you're someone who is earning a permanent salary, I wouldn't advise that your car cost you in general more than 30% of your salary, your net income. And when I say car, I mean the car installment, the insurance, the petrol, the maintenance. And I do have a maintenance account, so I don't just wait for things to just happen. So I have a maintenance account for the car that I put in money monthly. If the car needs new brakes, if the car needs new tires, I tap into that account basically. So all of that, for me, my rule of thumb, it shouldn't cost you more than 30% of your salary. 20% is more accurate for me, but yeah, 30% is good. Also, my experience, I was asked a lot of questions. I felt like I stole money. Like, I was just, I don't know if it's standard procedure. Maybe a person who's watching this and who's also bought a car before faced this experience that I faced. I was asked so many questions. I felt like I stole the money that I used as a deposit when buying the car. And I just like asked, and there was actually a form. How did I get the money? How did I save up for the money? I was like, okay. And I was like, well, I watched The Money Show by Bruce Whitfield. I listened to Business Talk on Power FM, all these things. I was taught to save. I literally felt like there was someone who was reported to have stolen money, and I think I was a suspect. But yeah, maybe I'm reading too much into it, but definitely that was my experience. And I was just like, I just want my car and I want to get out of here. Yeah. And yeah, there was a delay with transferring the money and it wasn't reflecting. And they had this rule of, if it doesn't reflect, we won't give you the car. And yeah, I waited, hey? I waited. And mind you, I had already sold the Figo. I waited, but it was worth it. And I'm currently still enjoying the drive and I don't regret anything. Also, my last tip when it comes to buying a car, Google cars that are high risk in terms of hijack. That's actually there are statistics that are there, but for me, my issue in particular with me was that I travel a lot, and sometimes I travel at night, you know. So, and I travel at night because not always because of work, but because I love concerts as well. So I'd go into concerts. So I didn't want to yeah, put myself at a risk where I'm driving in a car that has a high rate of hijack. Basically, I don't know what they call it. It's good to prepare, and it's never bad to over prepare. Anyway, thank you for watching, and see you next time.